Hello, Mr. Nemo here. I guess we ended up having enough time to make one more video. So we're going to talk about cookie dough. I guess I'm hungry. I don't know why I picked that. But it's going to be a very simple dough. So cookie dough. And this cookie dough has two parts. One of the parts is the chips. Chocolate chips, right? And the other part is the batter. So what we're going to look at is dealing with fractions and ratios. So if I told you that 1/4 of the mixture or the dough is chips, so it may ask you, what is the ratio? What is the ratio of chips to batter? So the ratio of chips to the batter. And if it's 1/4 chips, then we have to look at a part versus a whole. So remember that a ratio is a part to part. And a fraction, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a part to whole. So if we look at the total, this on here is the bottom, and that is a fraction. 1/4 of it is chips. But there's 4 parts total. And what we're saying right now is that the chips only make up one part of it. So the ratio of chips to batter ends up being 1 part chips to 3 parts batter, because our total, if you add those two numbers up, has to equal the bottom, the denominator or the total in our fraction. Okay, so this is part to part, right? So this is part to part. That is a ratio. Now, if we wanted to talk about the fraction, we would look at it this way. We would say that 1/4 of it is chips, and then the other part has to equal 4, because that is the total amount that we have is the 4, right? That's our denominator. And it would be 3 up here, because the 3 plus the 1 is going to give us the 4 total. And that would be 1/4 chips, 3/4 batter. So whenever your fractions add up, they have to equal the whole, the total, which is the 4. All right? But the ratio is part to part. So it is the 1 to the 3, and those two add up to the denominator, or the total amount of parts that are in the actual recipe. And one more thing to remember is that the fraction is dealing with part to whole. Hopefully that makes some sense. It's one of those things where the more you look at it and realize it, the more it'll make sense. And you just got to remember, the main thing to remember, ratio is part to part, and the fraction is the part to whole. If you can figure that out, you'll do real well. And study tonight. Good luck to you tomorrow.